Welcome back to Dan91's Garage. This week I've got an instrument cluster from a late model Toyota Starlet SR that has a rev counter. Obviously we're going to replace the clocks in this car because it doesn't have one. Sick of bumping the limiter, so we need to get this sorted. So what you've got to remember is the early model cars have different wiring to the late model cars. So 96, 97 is the early model, 98, 99 is the later model. So what we're going to do is switch some wires around. Thankfully I've managed to get myself both of the electrical manuals that Toyota used to use in their workshops. So this one's actually in German, but that's for the 96, 97 models. And this one is an English version for the 98, 99 models. So we've got all of the wiring diagrams. I've got a rough idea what I'm doing. Let's dive straight into this. See you guys in a sec. I've got myself a set of SR clocks, and these are obviously from a 98, 99 model. And it does obviously have the rev counter this side, which moves the temperature gauge over to this side and actually swaps places with the fuel gauge, which is a bit weird. But anyway, so we'll go take the other ones out. Pretty simple apparently to get to all the stuff. You've got 3 screws, 2 at the bottom, 1 at the top. So on the back side we've got 3 plugs, A, B and C, and then we've got the speedo drive. Apparently that's a bit of a pig to get off. There's this little sort of like annular ring or this sort of notch around it, and there's either a clip of some kind that goes in. You either have to squeeze it or pull it or do something depending on which form post you read. So anyway, that's that. Some people say it's easier to disconnect the speedo drive from the gearbox end, so once you've undone that you can then pull the whole cluster towards yourself, and then it's a lot easier to get around the back and unplug the actual drive from the clocks themselves. We're going to give it a go, take the screws out, unplug the thing, see how far we get. So I got the clock surround out of the car. It wasn't particularly fun. There's only 2 screws at the top to undo. Then you sort of pop this down, this edge, sort of pop it down towards yourself. And then on the back here, there's a couple of these arrow tabs. So then you sort of have to lift this centerpiece up a little bit over the column and then very gently in the middle, and then pull it towards yourself straight to unpop those tabs. Don't try and like lift it up because you'll snap those off. But yeah. Okay, sit rep. We're sort of 75% there, I guess. I've managed to get all the stuff off the back apart from one little sort of cable restrainer basically. So I had to take this front panel off, the driver's sort of knee panel basically. It's only got 4 screws in it in a clip, very similar to how you take out the glove box. So 2 screws at the top, 2 screws at the bottom. Pull out a clip from here, disconnect the speaker wire, and also once you've disconnected the speaker wire, disconnect the bonnet release cable, and then you press this little tab on the top, and this entire little like mini fuse box thing pops out the back of the panel. Then you can get rid of the panel. So you form the duck bill, and then you go up behind here, behind this box of magic, whatever that does, don't know. And that's the only place there's a gap. So you can go up there and then forward to the back of the clocks. Now, I could get 2 of the plugs off the back there. Then I had to sort of release the speedo cable, which is quite easy. There's actually like, where the collar clips on, you squeeze these 2 tabs in, and then that releases it from that little annular ring I told you about, and then it simply slides off. It's not difficult at all, but only if you know how to do the squeezy thing. So that's important. So everything's now off. I've got all 3 cables out. I had to get the sort of the last plug that's on the left-hand side of the clocks. I had to get that from the top. But I started on this side. So once that one's out, then you can take the next one out in the middle, and then you can tilt it forward enough to see what you're doing and shove your hand in. And I got it from the top in the end, in this top corner, once I twisted the clocks about. So I'm now left with, if I can get a torch in here. So on the back of that, there's now, in the center of shot, there's this white post coming off, which has got that sort of clear tab that all the wires are taped to. Now, I need to somehow disconnect that, pop it off, either cut the tape and get the wires off it, or get the little restrainer tab out of the back of the clocks, but it's feeling a bit fragile. So I'm going to puzzle my head over that and have a quick play with that for a minute, and then we'll get the clocks out. One other thing, if you're a big fella like me, this isn't the easiest of jobs, but thankfully I have got long arms, so the reach is good, but trying to stuff my ample frame into this footwell is getting a bit old now. But yep, we'll carry on. We finally managed to get it out. So the piece of strain relief that was on the back here, that was actually taped around this plug. What I ended up doing was I managed to get the cluster tilted forwards enough so that I could get my hand in from the side, and I simply undid the tape and took it off, and now it's over there on the bench. So these are the 3 plugs that obviously go to the clocks, A, B and C, And the most important wire for the rev counter on this one is this black wire here, so it should be in position 6. So if we count from this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have a black wire. And if you follow that black wire down, hopefully you can see in there, but that black wire has obviously got shielding on it, and that shielding is obviously to prevent any interference from the ignition signals going to the tach. So those are those. If we have a look down here, this is the speedo cable obviously, and if you look at the top and bottom here, when you squeeze that, you can see it pulls out that tab at the top, and that tab at the top is what locks into the notch I was telling you about. So yeah, reach up over the back, squeeze the top of this. It's on the little hood part, not the little, there's a smaller tab at the bottom. The top one unhooks and that just slips off. That's actually really easy. That's all good. It's pretty grotty in here, as it always is with this bloody car for some reason, so I am going to get the hoover out and give that a quick dust down before I shove anything back in. Pop over here to the bench. But also if we look at the back, so this is the old one versus the new one. This was the strain relief thing that was taped on, and that was plugged into this little socket on the back there. It's like a little fir tree, so it goes in easy, but it's very difficult to get it out. So I ended up grabbing hold of it and yanking on it, and it popped out. I was actually worried I was going to bust this little boss off, but it came off in the end. And you see the other one does have it, but if we look here, the position of this plug is down here, and the position of this plug is right up in the top corner. So this is obviously lower down. So when this was taped on, it may well need to be in a different position for this one. So that's interesting. It looks like the other two plugs are in the same place, but obviously this one's moved about a bit because of the rev counter. It's obviously gone up, I guess, to give that more room for some sort of mechanism to be on in there. So that's cool. You can also see the amount of different warning lights we've got. On my original one, there's only 2 on this side and 4 used on this side, and this has 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. Yep, so obviously dusty as car needs a clean. Then I'm going to double check the wiring on the car, because I've got the original, thankfully I've got the original Toyota workshop manuals that have all of the electrical connectors and wires and stuff in it. So I know that the books I've got are good. I've downloaded a guide I found on the internet, which I'm going to follow sort of 90% for the wiring. So it's time to start moving the pins about. And to do that, some of them are quite easy. Some of them stay like within their own plug, but some of them have to go sort of right across the car. But we're going to give that a crack now. So first off, need to basically get to the wires, and being as we need to get to some of the wires out of B and over to A, and vice versa, I'm going to need to strip off all of this sort of insulation-y stuff. This stuff here, this harder sort of textured stuff, that's a bit weird. I don't know if that's going to go back on without a bunch of tape over it, but either way, there's like some weird sort of plasticky tube thing going on this side as well. So I'll carry on stripping this down, and then when we can actually get out the wires. So first things first, plug A has 13 slots and it's brown in colour. Plug B has 16 slots and it's white in colour. Plug C has 10 slots and it's grey in colour. Right then, so we're going to start with the first move, which is we have to move pin C5, so that's the middle plug here, the grey one with only 10 contacts, and that needs to go to position 6. And that's what we've got there, brown with the white stripe, and he has to go into the hole next door. So this side is 1, and obviously 2, 3, 4, 5 is our brown with white stripe. Now obviously you need to release the clip on the back of these. So on the back of the plugs, you'll see there's this separate like white insert thing. So if you push that down, if we then push those 2 tabs down, throw that onto the floor and lose it. Let's go and find that quickly. The whole thing actually pops out. I thought it just slid back, but anyway, that's out now. Yay. Put that somewhere it won't get lost. Check out the MacGyver solution we've got going on. That's it, gaffer tape your torch to the steering wheel. And if you don't know who MacGyver is, ask your parents. So anyway, there's another like plastic retaining piece as well for the bottom. I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's this little clip on the side here. You push that in, this little sort of like white plastic thing, and another clip on the side there. You push that in as well, and hopefully that'll release the bottom, because at the moment I'm struggling. Success, we have the first one out, so
not only do you need to take out the top plastic clip, you need to slide this bottom plastic clip down as well, and then up the inside where these pins are. So yeah, you need to get yourself a small depinning tool as well, like this, because there's a plastic sort of arrow tab in there as well, so you need to lift that up out of the way so you can then slide it out from underneath. So yeah, 2 clips to take out first, and each one has its own little tabby thing you need to lift up before you can slide it out. So that's C5 out, and now we move him to C6, which is the hole next door. And the other thing to be aware of is when you're undoing that lower clip, you have to push the 2 tabs in at the side to pull out this lower sort of plastic bar. You push one each side, and then if you look in the middle, right down that central slot, there's another plastic clip that's holding the middle of that bar in, so you have to sort of lift that up as well.
So the first wire move, we take C5 and move it to position C6. Then we take B1 and move it to position C5. Then we take B2 and move it to position B1. Then we take A8 and move it to B2. Then we take A9 and move it to A8. And then we take A11 and move it to A9. And that's all the moves we've got to do.
So all the wires have been switched around. I've double checked their new positions. I managed to, I didn't actually have to, I tried to take this off. It's like a weird sort of tube sleeve thing. It wouldn't come apart. So I ended up undoing it as loosely as I could, and then just sort of basically sliding out this one wire that needed to come out of this plug and go over to B. So that's that. This is the wire that's a bit short. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that one yet. What I want to do is test the clocks first. Make sure, first of all, I don't even know if the clocks actually work. I mean, I bought them second hand, so first thing I want to do is plug them in and check the clocks even work. Then we'll have a bit more of a tidy up. Obviously got to retape this. All I've done is chuck a couple of bits of tape in a few strategic places just to stop the whole thing turning into a bird's nest when I'm trying to put the clocks in. So okay, so to get the clocks in or out, you basically have to kind of turn them a bit backwards on themselves. Go in sort of sideways like that. Whilst avoiding all of this stuff. There we go, so you sort of end up getting it diagonal and then sort of wrestle it up and over, and then it kind of turns the right way round again. And obviously everything catches on everything, so that's fun. Now you get to reach over the back again and try and plug in all of the damn plugs. So remember, I had to put the third one on first from the back. Okay, so that's the first one in. Now hopefully we can turn these a bit. We got it. Okay, that's the second one in. It's the third one to go then. Oh, now take my hand out. There we go. Okay. Well, there we go. All 3 plugs in. Not going to worry about the speedo just yet. We'll just drop that roughly back into position. Plug the battery in, I guess. Okie doke, so ignition on. We've got oil pressure warning light, check engine light, battery and handbrake. The weird thing is the handbrake doesn't go off when you've not got the engine started, but I had to change the bulb. The bulb that was in it didn't work. There was nothing shown there, which was weird. Then once you start it up, it does work, so I'm not quite sure what that's all about. So yeah, there we go. The fuel gauge has moved down to where the other one was. I'm just going to let it warm up now and make sure the temperature gauge actually does something, because at the moment it's off the chart, but the other one was off the chart as well. Rev counter works, which is the whole point in doing this exercise anyway. So I'm going to let it warm up, make sure the temp gauge works, and we'll go from there. Well, she's warmed up to operating temperature, so idling at about 700 and something. Temperature gauge is now in the middle where it should be. The fuel gauge, like I say, that's dropped down to where the old one's showing it should be. Handbrake light thingy still works. Put the lights on, it illuminates, which is cool. And then obviously we get that light. We also, for that, fog lights work, indicators, all good. So yeah, I think that's cool. So when the fan comes in, she's warmed up, we'll turn it off just to make sure.
So that's it for this week. No more nudging the limiter. We're all sorted with a rev counter. Over the moon with how it went. The clocks are actually a nicer design as well. The needles are a different shape, they're a different colour, and it really brings it up to date, being the late model sort of visuals. Really impressed with it, guys. Thanks ever so much for watching. Hope you got something out of it. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.